So one service that I use in addition to BetAngel is a service called Total Performance Data. It's a completely transformative technology. Basically, if you subscribe to Total Performance Data, you can actually see where all of the horses are on a race course. You can see what speed they're going, their stride frequency, all sorts of really interesting and critical information. And I wouldn't be without it. Now, I always used to be predominantly a pre-off horse racing trader, but since Total Performance Data came along, I do a lot of in-play stuff now as well. And the best thing about it is it's completely automated. And if you subscribe to Total Performance Data, you can plug it into BetAngel and it will tell you all sorts of interesting information about the horse, what it's doing. But you can also do things like look at a live map of exactly where that racehorse is on the course. And it's available at all of the courses in the UK. So Will from Total Performance Data came to see me not so long ago, and I asked him some key questions that people have about the technology. So if you want to learn more about that, and specifically Total Performance Data and how it gets all of that information straight to your desktop on BetAngel, just watch the rest of this video.
Hi, I'm Will Duff-Gordon, CEO and the founder of Total Performance Data, a company that I set up around 2015 to really make horse racing as exciting as it possibly can be by putting world-class sensors on every horse in every race around the world, to make it more interesting to bet on, to own a horse, to follow a horse, to ride a horse, to watch a horse on a race. So it's all about making horse racing as engaging as it can possibly be. So when I was an owner, I looked at TurfTrax data when my horse ran at York and Newmarket and found that absolutely fascinating as to how important a strong pace was to that horse's chances of winning. But I guess where TurfTrax trackers, where they kind of led the way, was having technology which was quite expensive and therefore not very scalable and not universally applicable. And we thought, let's try and see if we can attack this using some more recent technology like just satellites and GPS, to mean that every horse in every race can wear a sensor. So that's kind of, we approached it from the point of view of let's make this a mass market. So of course the challenge was, how do you make something that's quite difficult to do, which is to provide an accurate sense of a horse's position and speed at up to 42 miles an hour several times a second. How do you do that in 2015, 2016 using just GPS? So to sort of do that, we scoured the market for the right sort of technology partners, and we're lucky to have partnered right at the beginning with a super firm who were called Cambridge Design, who span out a sort of firm specialising in tracking horses and supermarket trolleys and people orienteering in forests. Back then they designed the first sat map before smartphones had location devices on them. They're called GMAX. They're still our partners to this day, and they very much work with us to create a bespoke solution to work on the back of a horse during the middle of a race at those kind of speeds. So one of the most important things that we bore in mind early on is that you can have the best technology in the world, but if you expect a race course to change all their practices that they have had in place for hundreds of years, then your technology is not going to work. So we try and work very seamlessly by effectively bringing flight cases of GPS sensors into the weighing room. Devices go into simple pockets in the number cloth. The jockey weighs out with his number cloth in the same way he or she have weighed out forever. It just so happens that as soon as that horse is saddled, they're emitting data. Satellites are bouncing their radio waves off the device. The device is sending the data back extremely quickly to our antennae on the weighing room roof. Minimal infrastructure stays at the racecourse, very inobtrusive, so that we were able to kind of like go from 0 installations to 15 in the UK in the first 2 or 3 years, because we were producing good quality content, and B, we were not forcing racecourses to change what they've been doing for a long time. So different countries work slightly differently, but we start in the UK, which, as people know, runs a sort of a roving circus, different race meetings around the country every single day. So we came up with a concept of effectively a very mobile set of sensors that move every day to a different racetrack. We have 5 or 6 operators in the UK based north, east, south and west, and they charge up our sensors at home overnight, drive them to the racecourse, arrive in the weighing room, and then start putting sensors into number cloths about an hour before the first race. There's a bit more to it than that these days, but it's essentially something where we manage the system inside the weighing room And then it's supported by, we've got a support desk in Cambridge and in Toronto. We now have a 24/7 support desk, and also in London. So there's lots of layers of oversight, but we've got good software, and the person in the weighing room sort of can manage the system entirely on their own, and they have to work and concentrate pretty hard for 7 races, and then they take their flight case home and charge them up ready for racing the following day. Yes, so we now insert a couple of devices per saddle cloth in order to effectively have redundancy. It's very unlikely for one of them to not be working properly, because they're all tested before, during and after every race, but you've got that kind of redundancy. There's no good being super accurate if your reliability is letting you down. So kind of accuracy, which is a sort of headline, is very much the kind of headline term under which you've got kind of reliability and latency and accuracy all sort of feeding into that overall summary. So the operator puts the sensors in, assigns the sensor number to the horse in the race number, which is obviously very important. That's then checked off-site. So again, we never really get that wrong, but that could go wrong, of misassigning a tag, shall we say. And then they are there, ready, watching the race. If it's a jumps race, they're trying to mark down the fallers using the kind of the Racecourse TV screens with no latency on them. They are also looking to check if a horse didn't load in the stalls. They can kind of like take them out of the race order, so their job isn't done. When the horses are going to post, they're paying attention throughout the race, as is the support desk remotely. So it's a pretty intense role. Then when the horses are finished, jockeys come back in. They come back in with their sweaty, hairy number cloths, and they hand them off. We retrieve the tags. They go back into the box, and then they are then sort of assessed for how they performed in that race. And if they performed as expected, they are ready to use in the following races. And a typical kit has around 60, 80, 90, depending upon which race course we're serving. Yeah, so whether you call it the sensor, the tracker, the tag, the transponder, it effectively is GPS, batteries, accelerometer, and other bits and pieces, and it's recording very simply position of every horse multiple times a second, and the speed of every horse. The accelerometer helps work out stride data. So the kind of raw things that we're capturing every second is where is the horse, how fast is it going, what's the timestamp, and how many strides per second is it doing. And from that, you can work out everything that we do work out today. The story of GPS is one of Bill Clinton sort of playing a starring role, where he lifted the military scramble on GPS accuracy from 50 meters for consumers down to back then, the year 2000, when he made that change to about 5 or 6 meters. And we've all been on that journey when we've seen our blue dot on the map kind of not quite capture where we are, and then jump to where it thinks we are. And smartphones and drones and more satellites, and then more countries putting up satellites. So there's now a Russian constellation, a Chinese constellation, a European constellation, obviously the American constellation, the original one. So more satellites, better technology means degree by degree, GPS is able to kind of capture your position on Earth down to little centimeters if you use an antenna kind of this big. And we're trying to work with a level of accuracy which is good enough for the purposes that we're using it for horse racing, in running betting, etc., but at the sort of size and weight and height of the box that is applicable to the rules of racing, so it doesn't kind of get in the way of everybody. So we benchmark the positional accuracy of every horse after every race, and there's lots of different ways of showing it. A bell curve is pretty useful, looking at the standard deviation. And effectively, we are sort of 80 to 90% of the time within 0.06, 0.07 seconds, which translates when a length is 0.167 seconds to being kind of under half a length, kind of like the vast majority of the time. And then it's a question of dealing with the tails on that data, and so we're gradually trying to constantly kind of make this into this narrower and narrower bell curve. And we've been making changes over time, and we think we've reached a point where we give a faithful representation of what's going on, but it is not as perfect as it would be as if we were allowed to put an enormous antenna and an enormous GPS chip on the side of a racehorse that weighed a significant amount more than the 90 or 100 grams that we're allowed to. So we measure accuracy, reliability, and latency. We'll come on to talk about that, but on terms of accuracy, it's something that we look at for every horse in every race. And about 0.0 0.07 seconds pretty much all the time is roughly where we are at the moment. We always had a real focus on a very low latency transfer of data, so we try and transmit the least amount of data off the device so it can travel as quickly as possible. We use very old-fashioned radio frequency technology in an unlicensed radio band because it is very low latency. It's going to be something like 50, 80 milliseconds from the device, to the end user. So it's very, very fast. Other companies took an approach of sending kind of more data over sort of higher power networks, Wi-Fi or 2.4 gigahertz, etc. And the problem with that is you're competing against every kind of every kind of laptop, every kind of user at a racecourse on a smartphone. So we're looking to sort of fly under the radar screen in sort of frequencies which no one else is using, and using some clever design work, we're able to kind of exploit the fact that that's also very, very low latency. One of the things I often forget is that most people, when I say what I do, they think, oh, how sweet, the odd horse in the odd race is carrying your technology. Whereas what actually happened, and I think I've got to give great credit to TurfTrax for this, is that they convinced the regulator to make it a rule of racing, so that if you enter a horse in a race in the UK, you have to carry a speed sensor. It's part of the rules of racing. So if TPD or one of our other companies that do similar things is providing speed sensors at a racecourse, every horse in every race is carrying their sensor. There were some weird and wonderful stories of Aidan O'Brien or John Gosden throwing the sensors, or quietly taking the sensors out between taking the saddlecloth and going down to post. So kind of the regulator mandated this. Why did they do that? Because they realised that if every horse has a lot of good data on them, they can use that data one day to help handicap races or judge any disruption or scrimmaging. That all stuff sort of was quite futuristic, but credit to the regulator, they saw this and they basically said to themselves, you know what, let's make it mandatory for every horse in every race to carry one of these. So the major area of growth for us will be turning this kind of data to bring in people to bet on a horse race that don't currently bet. Massive challenge for attention at the moment, whether it's esports or whether it is the fact that football betting is huge. Let's look at the kind of key statistic, which is 70% of sports betting is in-play betting. Now, clearly a horse race is short. Clearly horse racing will never be 70% in play. But there's a huge number of people who, if there's a chance to bet in play with information that they can understand and react to, which means they don't have to read the form, they don't have to know that Frankel is the top stallion, they don't have to know that Bob Baffert is a top trainer in America. They just haven't. But they will react to moving horses in a TV picture, or they will react to stats in the way that BetAngel, and Betfair and all the others can display it. Let's react to what we can see with our eyes in real time. It becomes really engaging. So clearly, let's try and see if we can make racing, jazz up its how it comes across on a broadcast. Some might say with a sort of Hawkeye of racing. Well, that's inappropriate because I guess Hawkeye is sort of a replay, but then they have their trace in golf shots, but again that's slightly delayed. So we're really all about what little things can you put on the TV broadcast that gives somebody watching it a sort of slightly more engaging experience. The running order, I think, is very, very popular at Royal Ascot. So Racecourses particularly, and Royal Ascot's the first in the UK. Lots in America do this. They show the full running order and the relative gaps between the horses, because you can't assume that the punter knows where horse 7 is in a crowded pack of horses. So there's lots we can do. We don't want to take away from the majestic view of the thoroughbred in full flight. I'm somebody who's hugely passionate about how cool these horses are, but I think you can have the best of both worlds. I think you can still focus in on the horses racing and also give people a little bit of help with what's going on. One curious moment was being in Riyadh for the Saudi Cup. And at the end of the day, dying to fly back to London. We think we did a pretty good job, our first outing in the Middle East, and the support desk in Cambridge told me to go and find the trackers for the winner of the horse, the $10 million Saudi Cup, because the trackers have not been returned to our flight case, and they tell us that they are in the international press room. So my Saudi team and I have to trot around there, and we are literally looking for the dot on the map. And after searching through various journalists who wondered what on earth we were doing in their room while they tried to file their copy as to what happened in the race, eventually some chap left the room, clutching the cloth of the winning horse, and we accosted him there, and he looked rather shocked. But yeah, it's quite handy, GPS. You always know where your devices are. We've had trainers leave the track and start disappearing up the M6, and then occasionally a tracker might sort of disappear, and then you can use the software to find it. So but that's a couple of little anecdotes of what goes on out there to keep people interested. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate the exposure to the loyal and venerable BetAngel client base, and we look forward to seeing you on a racecourse or at a webinar or comments in the forums on the YouTube channel. But yeah, good luck, and thank you for your interest.